Now, the rest of the story.
Welcome back to the rest of the story. You guys are seeing the first seedbed prep of the season. I'm currently just trying to get it worked down, smoothed out, dried out a little bit. It hasn't exactly been ideal drying conditions. Pretty much today was the only real drying day we've had. We haven't had rain in, I think, 2 or 3 days. But there's so much moisture in the soil that it really just needs sunshine and heat. So what I'm doing is breaking this open, and the way the weather's looking right now, I'm probably gonna go ahead and try to plant tonight if everything comes together like it's supposed to. I wish I was working about 2 hours earlier than this, but the problem is I had to let the sun do its job because it was definitely too soft earlier this morning to get away with doing this. And the plan is Ryan's going to come out and take over this, and I'm going to go back in and get the planter set up and ready to go. I'm not sure if that's exactly how this is going to work, or if that's the plan. Or that's the plan. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to happen. You guys are going to have to wait till tomorrow night's video to see what all happens here. Ooh. It was pretty much a last-minute decision kind of thing. They are literally saying rain. It's the 5th of May, by the way. They're saying rain sometime tomorrow. Sometime tomorrow afternoon. So, which is bad enough. But the problem is it's supposed to start and rain all week. So if it starts raining tomorrow and rains for 4 or 5 days, which is what the current forecast is saying, that's already going to put us out till the 11th before we're actually supposed to see sunlight again. We're actually going to start drying out the fields, but the problem is we're only supposed to get 2 or 3 days of sunshine before we're projected to get another week of rain. And if that happens exactly how they're claiming it's going to play out, it pushes us back to about the 20th or so before we can even start really planting. So the plan is, I hate saying that, but the goal right now is just try to get something in the ground. So if we get rained out, it isn't the end of the world. I mean, it's not the end of the world if we don't, but we got a lot of ground to cover yet. And I think everyone would feel a lot better if we at least had something in the ground. It's kind of one of those darned if you do, danged if you don't kind of deals, because I've been going back and forth all day trying to decide if it was worth it, if it was dry enough, should we be putting anything in or not. And it literally took me all day, not from being completely indecisive, but it just took the ground that long to dry out where I felt comfortable doing anything with it. As you can see, I'm throwing plenty of dirt or dust, but I just as soon have it coming up a little bit drier than what it is too. I talked to my friend Ryan, and he actually said pretty good words of advice. Of course, I've heard them before. Are you better off to plant in less than ideal conditions? I mean, these aren't terrible conditions by any means, but you're better off planting and risk a little bit of compaction and hopefully potentially no real yield loss or an extreme amount of yield loss, or do you run the risk of waiting, hoping for some decent weather, not getting the decent weather, and then having to plant later in the planting season, and still have to be, or still pretty well be forced to plant in less than ideal conditions. So I want to see something in the ground, especially for it to be in the 5th of May. I know there's people out there that think we're early, that say we're early, that we gotta wait till the middle of May, the end of May to the 1st of June. Might be good for them, planting conditions wise, but I'm gonna be honest with you, anything after the 15th of May and I start sweating. I have some 112-day maturity corn that is going in, well, the first day we can plant corn. I'm good until about the 15th of May, and then after that it's pretty much depending on the weather and how much longer after the 15th of May I could potentially get it planted. So I'd just as soon hold off on changing out any of our hybrids until we get a little bit more later in the season. I know there are some people already talking about switching up their maturity dates, their corn hybrids. I am not to that point yet. So, I don't know if I actually mentioned that, but I'm not working on corn ground right now. As odd as this sounds, I'm actually working on soybean ground. I'm planning on putting in soybeans. The reason for that is because when I started doing this, the ground, like I've said, isn't 100%, and I may not get 100% ideal for putting corn in, but I have no problem putting soybeans in these conditions. This will be worked up. It's going to be probably 2 or 3 hours yet before this ground sees a planter pulled across it, so it's going to give it plenty of time for the air to get to it, dry it out a little bit, and that's really what we're aiming for. I honestly don't feel like I'm causing much, if any, compaction. It's the problem. You talk to too many people, and you kind of start to go backwards as far as people's opinions, and worried about causing compaction, and then the next person will say, "Oh, you're perfectly fine." So I'd rather just go with my gut, and I feel like I'm making the right decision right now. In all the ag classes I had throughout high school and college and everything else, one thing was pretty consistent was when it comes to agriculture, and I'm sure this statement can be used in different fields, but when it comes to making decisions on the farm, you gotta decide what your options are, deduce what of those options are your best course of action, plus what you'd actually be able to live with at the end of the day. And then after picking one of your options and making a decision, sticking with it and not second guessing yourself. And the not second guessing yourself part is probably the hardest part. I was really on the fence once I actually started across that upper strip whether or not I should have kept going. I did actually stop for an hour, and after an hour I can definitely tell you the conditions now, even after waiting an hour, are a lot nicer than what they were when I first started. So it's, well, planting's always a race to the finish. So, yeah, things are really starting to get exciting all of a sudden. It was actually getting pretty dull because it was really rained every other day, and you kind of get taken out at the knees as far as being able to really do anything, because you can only work in the shed for so long on different things. We really just needed the ground to dry out so we could do something. Well, my phone's ringing. All right, guys, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. If you guys can't tell, I got more than just filming a video on my mind. So we'll see what we can make up happen here in the next hour or two, and hopefully you guys can see that tomorrow night. Until then, bye.